Today we will look at the anxiety DICEM level scale and how it affects our stuttering. It's no secret that when we stutter severely, our anxiety level is often higher. So, when we speak well, for example, at home sitting alone, everything goes either perfectly or is much easier. And moreover, the level of logophobia in this case is either absent or minimal because there is a certain comfort zone. If you stutter there every day 100 times, no matter what, even if you remain yourself, even when you're alone, some awkward moments can still happen. But if you talk normally for a while, say for an hour, your body realizes that you're basically safe, there's no pain, and it starts to relax. So, when we stutter in most cases, we experience a certain level of anxiety, which can be moderate or even severe, really intense. And to properly overcome stuttering and deal with logophobia, it's important to address that anxiety. So, when we stutter in most cases, we experience a certain level of anxiety, which can be moderate or even severe, really intense. And in order to properly get rid of stuttering and overcome logophobia, it's important to learn how to reduce that anxiety, at least in part. Because in principle, people who do not stutter also experience anxiety. It's also important to be able to reduce that anxiety, at least in part, because in principle, people who do not stutter are not only here in this situation. Yeah, there's that green smiley face or something like that. Especially in these challenging times, many people at work experience a certain level of stress. They communicate with different people. They can be roughly starting from this boundary, even this boundary, we see it less often. For example, here it's 5, 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3. On average, it can be from 3 to 6 units, and there are already people who do not stutter. Although you might have thought that a person who doesn't stutter wouldn't be afraid of anything, like a superhero. I'm sorry to disappoint you on that front. Normal people experience fears and doubts every day. They even experience certain blockages. They often don't want to say anything, they don't want to communicate. They don't force it out of themselves, but use their diaphragm instead of their speech apparatus. So they do it right. But when we stutter, we do it wrong. You can learn to do it right. That's a whole different story, a separate part of our breakthrough course. So in a course, for example, on overcoming stuttering, if you're only focusing on speech therapy, then in many situations, yes, it might work only with that, even with psychology. But if you don't work on reducing the negative charges, reducing the level of anxiety that will sometimes arise, yes, then most likely the results will be more mediocre than in those situations. When you know how to work with your state, your internal state, yes, we're talking about the internal state because the external state already depends on the internal state. So our speech is a reflection of our inner state. So if you're not using any solutions, for example, from psychology or neuro-linguistic programming, to work on your state. For example, how to create this verbal state in an instant. Yes. Then most likely you will have fewer results than you would have if you learned to instantly create a resourceful state with those ever-present anchors and at least reduce it, not completely. It doesn't work. So this scale, at least by 1, 2, or 3 divisions, and then based on that, in practice, you would be able to use it like this, for example, and knowledge from speech therapy would just work. Thanks to what? Thanks to the enhancement, because it's just solo, either psychology or NLP or neurophysiology or speech therapy. It can also work, but it will work less effectively than if everything is combined. In fact, the most active methods are those where several techniques are combined. All of this is built in. It's packed into the right verification strategy There are specific goals on the scale of effectiveness, yes, that is, after the relationships. For example, we start communication at home with different people, and when it comes to communicating in front of a large audience like 100, 200, or 300 people, there are specific goals set and certain tasks are assigned to achieve them. Yes. And to simplify the achievement of these goals, techniques like neuro-linguistic programming are used, which work with your internal state. It's not that difficult, although it might sound complicated, just other techniques from psychology. So don't just rely on psychology, guys. The best approach is a comprehensive one, as practice has proven. As for which specific solutions to use to reduce anxiety and learn not to get stuck, we're already going through this in our course, in our program called Breakthrough.